All right. Now, as I recall, we were up to chapter 42. Now, chapters 42 and 43 are kind of a group together and a pretty long story. So we will take this as far as we get, but I would anticipate being on this particular portion of the story for probably at least a week or two. All right, now as you'll recall, where we left off on chapter 41, the famine had begun, and we're told the famine also encompassed Canaan, where Jacob's family was. Now, it is believed that in all likelihood, the events of chapter 42 were probably in the second year of the famine. You'll notice that Moses, when he related all of this to us, did not give us a timeline as to was this the first year of the famine or whatever, but the fact that Jacob and his family have run out of food and he's sending his sons to Egypt, the commentators seem to believe it probably was in the second year of the famine. All right, now, verse 1. Now Jacob saw that there was grain in Egypt, and Jacob said to his sons, "Why are you staring at one another?" Now, by the way, not that this is some great theological concept here, because it wouldn't be, but you'll notice that Genesis tells us even about these personal conversations that took place, that Jacob is asking his sons, why are you standing around looking at each other? How would we know personal details of conversations like this?
God dictated it to Moses.
All right.
God's not going to forget.
See, there are various views concerning how Scripture is inspired. Some say that God personally dictated every single word of it. There are other views that say, well, God inspired the various message and left it up to the individual writer to put it in their own words. Then the most popular view is what they call and I don't expect you to remember this because it's not really important, just the fact that there are different views. What they call the plenary verbal view, which says that yes, God inspired each individual author, allowed them to pick their own words, but so inspired them that God already knew what words they were going to pick, and that it wouldn't have been any different than him dictating it. Now, my personal view is I think it depends on which passage of Scripture you're reading.
I agree.
Yeah, because for example, in the gospel accounts, we have 4 different versions, especially with Matthew, Mark, and Luke, which we call the synoptic gospels, that essentially tell the same story, but in the words of the individual author that wrote it. So from the one hand, we do have examples of where God inspired them, but then gave them the leeway to write it in their own words, from their own perspective. Then there are other examples, for example, where Moses went up on Mount Sinai. The Bible tells us he was up there for 40 days and 40 nights. They weren't sitting up there just having tea with each other. I mean, how long did it take God to, because the Bible tells us God personally inscribed the tablets that the 10 Commandments were written on. How long do you think it took God to do that? Yeah, not very long at all. He could have just, here you go, Moses. So the question would be, what was he doing the other 39 days, 23 and a half hours? God is giving him all of this history that happened before Moses came on the scene. And this is a good example where we can see that clearly Moses didn't just write his own opinion of what went on. How in the world would Moses know about individual personal conversations that took place 400 years before he was born? This tells us that there are examples in the Bible, this and I think the prophets, where God says, prophet, whichever one it was, write this, thus saith the Lord. And I think in those examples, God was pretty adamant that you write exactly what I tell you to write. So for those that say, oh, well, God just let them write whatever they wanted. Yeah, there are some examples, especially in the New Testament, of that. But in the Old Testament, we see a lot of, I think what was personally dictated and controlled by God as he related this message to Moses. And I think this is a good example of one of those. Otherwise, how would Moses know about this?
And God's story to Moses isn't something was passed down from person to person to person to person to person and got changed along the way.
Yeah.
It's the perfect memory of the God who remembers it perfectly because he was there when it happened.
Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out just as that's a freebie for you this evening.
Thank you. No extra charge.
No extra charge for that. Verse 2. And he said, behold, I've heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy some for us from that place, so that we may live and not die. Notice how Jacob presents it. Says, go down there to that place. What does this tell you about Jacob's opinion of Egypt? Well, not only that, but does it tell you that, has Jacob been to Egypt before? Well, as far as we know,
No.
he'd never stepped foot in Egypt. So all he knows is he's heard word, which, by the way, this is one of the reasons why many of the commentators believe this was probably in the second year of the famine, because since the news outlets didn't exactly work with lightning speed back then, how long do you think it would have taken word to get out that there was grain in Egypt?
At least a month or two by caravan.
Yeah.
If one left immediately.
Would have taken a while.
Yeah.
So,
I wonder if he knew about the old family stories, though, with other parts of his family going.
oh, I have no doubt that
Yeah.
he knew
Yeah.
about Egypt,
Yeah.
because, well, for that matter, Abraham had been. And by the way, why did Abraham go to Egypt?
Famine.
Because there was a famine. So this isn't the first time this has happened. All right, go down to that place that we may live and not die. Then 10 brothers of Joseph went down to buy grain from Egypt. Now, notice how many.
Who stayed behind?
Only 10.
Oh, Benny stayed behind.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute, but
The young, yeah.
yeah. But Jacob did not send Joseph's brother Benjamin, there's your answer to your question,
Okay.
with his brothers, for he said, I'm afraid that harm might befall him. Now,
They're not worried about the older boys. They
Yeah.
can take care of themselves.
we know over the years Jacob has clearly grown in his spiritual walk with God. But this tells us that there's one particular issue that Jacob, or I should say a lesson, Jacob still hadn't gotten through his head.
He's always got a favorite.
Favoritism.
He's got a favorite son, and he makes no bones about it. What do you think the rest of the brothers are thinking about this? They already sold one brother into slavery because of this. And now guess what? That brother's little brother
Is getting special treatment.
getting special treatment. Do you think they knew that he was daddy's little boy?
That's exactly why he's not sending Benjamin. He sent Joseph.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna
they
say.
blew it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he's already lost one of his favorite children from the favorite wife.
It's
So
not like he's a little kid anymore, because Joseph's like 37 by now, right? He was
Joseph.
17 when he went to Egypt, and it's been 20 years.
Joseph is probably, I looked that up here a while back, and Joseph is believed to be somewhere about 38, 39 years
Okay, so his
old.
younger brother Benjamin's only a few years younger, right?
Actually, it's no, we don't know for sure. The Bible does not give us an exact
But
timeline.
still, he's probably a 30-year-old.
I'm
at
getting to
least.
that. I'm getting to that.
Okay. And his older brothers are even older. They're in their
Yeah.
40s.
It is believed at this point that Benjamin was probably about 12 or 13 years younger than Joseph.
That's a lot.
Which would put Benjamin, if Joseph is about 38 or 39, then Benjamin is, say, 26, 27 years old. Also, we will find as we continue on, Benjamin himself's got 10 kids. Now, that doesn't mean that he had, one kid, then another kid, because we think of this in terms of, that he's been married at least 10, 11, 12 years. What did they practice back then that would make this possible in a lot less time?
Polygamy.
Polygamy. Yeah, we have no guarantee as to how many kids, or how many wives Benjamin may have had. But it is believed at this point that Benjamin was probably in his late 20s. Now, having said that, Benjamin's a grown man with kids of his own. And how's Daddy still treating him?
Like he's his little pet.
Hey, my little boy. Jacob still has not gotten it. All right. Now, do you think the older brothers, don't see this? You better believe they know who the favorite is. All right, verse 5. So the sons of Israel, notice now that we've changed this. Not referred to as Jacob, now Moses has flipped back to using the name Israel. Why from verse 4 to verse 5 did he switch from Jacob to Israel?
does it have something to do with the fact that when they were relating a story directly from him versus talking about him?
That's true in some cases, but most of the time, Moses used the name Israel when he's speaking of the family in the sense of the forefathers of the nation versus Jacob and his 12 kids, individually. In this particular case, keep in mind, this whole story is setting up what's about to happen with all of Jacob's family and the forerunners of the nation of Israel making a migration to Egypt. So he switches to the name Israel to kind of give you a hint that this is an important passage that is setting up what's about to happen with not just the family, but the nation.
The coming 400 years transforms them from a family into a nation.
Yep. All right, so the sons of Israel came to buy grain among those who were coming, for the famine was in the land of Canaan also. Now Joseph was the ruler over the land. He was the one who sold to all the people of the land, and Joseph's brothers came and bowed down to him with their faces to the ground. Now, interesting what has happened here.
Just like his dream.
His dream.
Exactly. Joseph has now seen his dream
So his dream was a prophecy.
from back when he was 17 years old. He's now seen his dream come to fruition. He sees his brothers standing before him with their faces on the dirt. Now, why did they go to Joseph? Why not go to, the secretary or the keeper of the silo or whatever? Why would they have gone directly to Joseph?
Is a representative from Jacob?
Well, they're coming from a foreign nation,
Yeah.
coming into Egypt. So imagine you've got this caravan, because it wouldn't have just been the 10 brothers. They'd have taken camels, a caravan with them, servants, because they're going to buy grain to last them for a year. So they go down there, and as they enter into Egypt proper, they're naturally going to be asking around, where do we need to go to buy some grain? And what are the Egyptians going to tell them?
They're going to send them to the government.
Yep, if you want to buy grain, we've all been told that guy that's in that big palace over there is the one you have to talk to.
So they didn't have any U-Haul camels or anything they could get on when they
No
got down?
U-Haul camel.
And they
No,
weren't
no
just
camel
coming
pod.
themselves, because verse 5 says, "Among those who were coming." So there are other people from Canaan headed that way too.
Oh yeah,
So there
you've
was-
probably got multiple caravans headed
Yeah.
down there. And again, two things. They're coming from a foreign country. They speak a foreign language. And they've all, because of course, keep in mind, what were we told in chapter 41? When people complained to Pharaoh that we're hungry, what did Pharaoh tell them to do?
Go see Joseph.
Go see Joseph. So anybody that said, hey, we're coming into town and we're looking for grain, where do we go? That guy over there, go see Joseph. Although, now, you would think at this point, they say, what's his name?
They
Go
might
see
have just
Joe?
said, go see the governor.
Governor, yeah.
Yeah, but remember, they spoke Egyptian, and you'll recall a couple of chapters back, what did Pharaoh do when he promoted Joseph to prime minister?
Gave him an Egyptian
He
title.
gave him an Egyptian name. What name would the average Egyptian on the street know him by?
The Egyptian.
The Egyptian name. So when they encountered somebody that they could communicate with and said, where do we go for grain? If a name got brought up, it wouldn't have been Joseph. It would have been his Egyptian name.
Zapanapanea.
What's that?
Zapanapanea, whatever.
Yep, Zaphanath Paneah or something like that. If I'm probably, considering I don't speak Egyptian, I'm sure that's probably not how it's pronounced, but it definitely was not, Yosef, or as they would have pronounced it. There actually is no J in Hebrew, it's pronounced as a Y. But however you want to pronounce it, it would not have been Joseph. It would have been the Egyptian name. So they would have been clueless as to who they were going to see. Now,
Not
verse
that
7.
tough. It's Zaphanath.
Huh?
Zaphanath.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's got Panea at the end of it
Zaphanath Paneah. Okay.
Mhm.
It's hyphenated, yeah.
When Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he disguised himself to them and spoke to them harshly. And he said to them, where have you come from? And they said, from the land of Canaan to buy food. Now, why is it? I mean, it's obvious Joseph recognized them. Yeah, it's been 20 years, but, I mean, they were adults when he got sold into slavery. And, I mean, how many of us, we see somebody 20 years later, I mean, if they were kids versus adults, it would be easy to see how you wouldn't recognize somebody. But if a person, say Reuben, for example, would have been in his probably late 30s when Joseph was sold into slavery, and now he would be in his probably late 50s, early 60s, yeah, he might be a little gray, have a few extra wrinkles, white hair, but would he look differently enough that Joseph wouldn't recognize him?
No.
Unlikely.
But wouldn't Joseph at this point be in Egyptian garb and
That's the key.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why they didn't recognize Joseph. Because there's also three things that went on here. Number one, what did the Hebrews do about their facial hair and their hair up here?
Didn't cut it.
Let their beard
Well, they
Didn't
did
shave
cut
it.
it. I mean,
Yeah, they
this.
didn't shave.
All right, let me make one thing very clear here. I know a lot of artists and what have you like to portray Hebrews as being these long-haired hippie types. Let me tell you, that is not scriptural at all. They
Absalom.
Huh?
Absalom.
He was, yeah.
Don't get in trouble.
And look what it cost him.
Yeah.
He let his hair grow and only got a haircut once a year, and it cost him his life. But No, for the most part,
There's always the exception.
yeah, there's always an idiot out there somewhere. We got one or two in here. They did keep their hair cut. I mean, it wasn't, like necessarily, buzzed off, but these pictures that you see, like for example, these depictions of Jesus having hair down to here, that is absolutely not scriptural at all. Their hair would have been, maybe bushy or whatever, maybe out to, whatever, but it wouldn't have been long hair. Now, on the other hand, beards. Hebrews definitely believed in letting their beards grow. So you're looking at somebody that, if they were looking for another Hebrew, would expect to have some hair on their head, a good full beard, and different kind of clothes.
Would their name be Merrill?
Merrill would make a really good Jew.
No, I'm an Arab.
Now, as far as their apparel, now let me draw, again, a difference here. First off, Egyptians, especially those that were of royalty, which by this point, Joseph is no longer a prisoner. He's now been elevated to royalty. And in Egyptian royalty, guess what they did to their heads? Shave it off. So he would have been bald-headed, clean-shaven, and even Egyptian men like their makeup.
Yeah.
They would have all kinds of makeup over their eyes. They might have makeup on their face. Plus, they would have had totally different type of clothing. Let me give you an example. In Canaan, that's far enough north because you're looking at about a 400 or 500 mile, difference, that in the winter, especially, it got cold there, and they would have thick clothing. Egypt, on the other hand, is much farther south. Winters in Egypt range from being tropical to very temperate. A lot of times their clothing there in Egypt was very sparse. I'm not saying they went around naked, but they didn't have the thick, long cloak and what have you that Semitic people in Canaan tended to wear. So they would have walked into the presence of somebody who may or may not have even had a shirt on at all, would have had a royal garb over his shoulders, royal headdress, or if he didn't have that on, would have been bald-headed, makeup on his face, clean-shaven. He would have looked exactly the total opposite of what they would have expected Joseph to look like. So it would be easy to see.
They saw an Egyptian.
Yeah,
Plus
they saw an
They
Egyptian.
thought he was dead anyway, right?
Yeah, and plus they're not expecting to see Joseph because they figure, we sold him into slavery, over 20 years ago. He's bound to be dead by now. So no, they weren't expecting to see Joseph, and they saw exactly what they expected to see, an Egyptian official. Who, now, you might think, well, maybe they recognize his voice. How long has it been since they heard his voice?
20 years.
20 years. He's older, and how many of us do our voices still sound exactly the same as they did when we were 17 years old? Probably none of us. Plus, he's been in Egypt long enough. Do you think maybe he possibly spoke with a slight Egyptian accent now? And he's not speaking Hebrew to them. What's he speaking to them? He's speaking in Egyptian because he's speaking through an interpreter. So, if you're wondering, well, why didn't they just know? That's why. They encountered something or somebody that wasn't who they were expecting. All right, we'll go a couple more verses and then we'll call it quits for the night. All right, now verse 8. But Joseph had recognized his brothers, although they did not recognize him. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he had about them and said to them, "You are spies. You've come to look at the undefended or in actually the Hebrew, it's actually refers to as the naked part of the land, which means in, the undefended area. You've come to spy out the undefended parts of our land. Then they said to him, No, my lord, but your servants have come to buy food. We are all sons of one man. We are honest men. Your servants are not spies. I'm going to stop there. Now,
I got a question about
With
9.
them.
all right, we'll get back to that. Let me deal with verse 11, then I'll take your question. All right, first of all, we are all sons of one man. You see the irony in that statement? They're right. They were all sons of one man. More so than they thought.
Realized.
Yeah, more than they realized. But says, your servants are honest. What do you think Joseph is thinking
He's
at
like,
this
yeah,
point?
right. Hello.
I know better than that.
Hey, you're spies.
Yeah. Honest? Really? You sold me into slavery.
After you chuck me in a
Which,
well.
now, the question at this point, as Joseph continues, and we'll get more into this on Sunday, is he testing them to see have they changed, or is he just figures, once a thief, once a crook, always a crook, and figures, oh, we're honest, and he's thinking, no, you're not.
I think it would be hard to not have some of your personal feelings of animosity
He's just
and
making them squirm.
Yeah.
No.
yeah.
And that may be part of it too,
Yeah.
that he figures,
Put him in jail.
okay, this is my opportunity. And we got to keep in mind too, yes, we give Joseph a lot of credit for being more spiritually mature than they are, but Joseph has been in Egypt for 20 years under their, influence and what have you. Joseph is not perfect himself. He's grown, clearly he's no longer the little 17-year-old brat. But you got to wonder, is Joseph taking the opportunity here? It's like, you know what? This is my turn to make them squirm.
Yeah,
But
Revenge time.
Uh-huh.
he's human.
Yeah.
But I got a question.
All right,
about
verse
9.
9.
And he remembered the dreams. What about the dreams would lead him to respond the way he did?
Because in the dreams
That they were bowing down to him in the
Bowed
dreams, but what
down,
else in the, there was something else in the dreams as well that I've forgotten.
The fact that at
Also
this
the
point
father
they are paying homage to him, that he is the one now in control. And he's thinking, you know what? I am in control.
Oh,
Well-
so then I can make him squirm.
And I can
Yeah.
make him
So that's why
squirm.
he says, you're spies. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's where he's that's the reaction. Okay.
Mhm.
So it's not something actually remembered from the dream, it's just
no.
remembering the dream, now I'm in charge.
I'm
Yeah,
in
okay.
charge, and you are
The
going
dream
to
has come
squirm.
true. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I get to make you squirm now.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, anybody else? All right, we'll pick up there on Sunday. Mario, would you like to